Good evening and welcome to the SportsZone season premiere. We are so back. I'm your host, Steven Lucero, joined by Timothy Scott and London Stewart. And as we start our season, the NFL ends their season. The Super Bowl was this past weekend, and we saw a pretty shocking result.
Yeah.
Eagles 40-22 victory over the two-time defending champion Chiefs. Timothy, I'll let you start us off. What did you see from that Super Bowl?
I saw excellence across the board by the Eagles. They were ready to play. The defense was on it, absolutely ready to play. The offense, I mean, Saquon Barkley was silenced, but Jalen Hurts stepped up when his team needed him absolutely best. And it was an all around really good performance by the Eagles.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that pretty much covers it. London, what were your thoughts on the Eagles, and what do you think happened with the Chiefs?
We really just see that the Eagles just play more physical than the Chiefs. We seen them come out and hit the Chiefs in the mouth instantly from the defensive line. Guys like Josh Sweat, Jordan Davis coming out, getting pressure on the quarterback. And you see that the Chiefs were very rattled from the beginning of the game. The Chiefs weren't used to getting hit like that, though. But when a team is coming in and going straight into you, because the Chiefs are winning games by 1 point. But if you got a team that coming out that's going to put 20 on you, put 30 on you in the first half, like they're trying to get in there and, like, you know, pressure the quarterback for us. So it was just more physical to the Chiefs.
Yeah, Jalen Carter literally slapped them in the face, and no call, by the way. So the Chiefs, you know, I think for so long it's been the refs and all these miraculous sort of dark magic type of wins. And all of a sudden, all their luck seems to run out. We talked about the Eagles playing physical. Timothy, what do you think went wrong for the Chiefs?
I think they just weren't ready.
Okay.
They simply weren't ready. They, right from the gate, like you said, got punched in the mouth and couldn't get back up. You could see their offensive line certainly wasn't ready for the Eagles' defense.
Yeah.
Their offensive scheming wasn't ready for what the defense had in the secondary, which allowed that defensive line to get to Mahomes. It was overall, the Chiefs just looked like they game planned for one thing and did not practice anything else.
Yeah, I'll ask you, London. Who would you say had the most surprising, sort of shocking performance from the Super Bowl?
I'm going to say Milton Williams.
Okay, there we go. I like that name.
2.5 sacks. He was almost back there every single play. We really sit there and think about that. But he really he's a guy that really stepped up, though. A guy you don't hear too often, but a guy who really stepped up in a clutch game, in the biggest game regardless of his career, and played against, many would say, the best quarterback in the NFL right now. And so you're stepping up right there, so I'll say Milton Williams.
Yeah, absolutely. The defense was great. Offensively, we just saw Jalen Hurts with that tush push into the end zone. They were unstoppable, whether it was A.J. Brown, whether it was Devontae Smith, someone stepping up, whether it's Cooper DeJean with the pick six, first player to get a pick six on their birthday in the championship game since 1947. There's a wild stat for you, but the Eagles' defense was just dominant. I mean, it's already 16-0, and it just got worse from there. Yeah. I'll ask you, Timothy, who do you think had the most shocking performance in this game?
I think instead of a good performance, a bad performance, Travis Kelce.
Okay, there we go.
4 catches, 39 yards in the Super Bowl. And for a guy who was talked up as, you know, one of the best tight ends in the league, his performance was really, really lackluster when his team needed it. Also, on the other end, Saquon Barkley. Credit to the Chiefs. They game planned him really well, able to stop him. But 25 rushes, 59 yards in the Super Bowl for a guy that was the key to the Eagles' offense, didn't show up when he needed it most.
Yeah, it was definitely surprising. I mean, the Eagles, they found other ways to win. We just saw that A.J. Brown touchdown, and for them, it didn't matter. I mean, they didn't really have to do all that much. For me, my most shocking performance was Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs' offensive line. I mean, look at it right there. He was just battered all game long. I mean,
without blitzes.
I was about to, you took the words right out of my mouth, London. Incredible stat. Not a single blitz. All 4-man rushes the entire game. Career high 6 sacks on Mahomes. Absolute insanity. The Eagles so dominant, and the Chiefs, like we said, they look lost out there. So back on the topic of Jalen Hurts, he takes home Super Bowl MVP. This is really a player in Hurts that had been benched in a national championship game. He'd been criticized, you know, over the last few seasons for just not being that guy. But now we see them dumping the Gatorade on Sirianni. The Eagles and Jalen Hurts are Super Bowl champions. So I'll ask you, London, how do you think this affects Hurts' legacy?
I feel like this really shows people that you can be a rushing quarterback but also be really good at the arm. When he was coming in the league, they questioned him, relating him to guys like Taysom Hill or you know, switching your position. But you see in this aspect of where guys like Saquon Barkley they game planned around him, but he still came through on the running game. He also had 2 passing touchdowns as well, and he kept poised throughout the whole game. That's what you need in a leader right there, and that's how you build a franchise player.
Yeah, definitely, Timothy.
I mean, for me, it was you saw him step up when his team needed it most, right? You talked about they game plan around Saquon Barkley. Jalen Hurts found a way and solidified himself as that guy, could argue as a top 5 quarterback in the league. Silenced the doubters concerning that, he was carried by Saquon this year or carried by the defense, but no. Jalen Hurts proved on Sunday that he is that guy for the Eagles, and he is the future of that franchise.
Yep, certainly. It was such an all-around performance. Like we said, Saquon didn't have that game you were expecting out of him, but it just didn't matter. I'll ask you, London, other than Jalen Hurts, who was your MVP of this game?
I really like A.J. Brown as well. He made some tremendous catches. In the first quarter, a deep pass down the field, caught it on the sideline, right there, had the Chiefs in shock right there. Like, whoa, we're not used to this right here. But A.J. Brown made some very vital catches. Though he had 3 receptions, he still came through with averaging 17 yards a catch almost. But so that's very big right there. He really stepped up right there. A guy who's playing in his first Super Bowl as well. Yeah,
I like that answer a lot. I talked about it a little bit last week. A.J. Brown, I felt, was one of those guys that had to have a big game in order for the Eagles to win this. Maybe, didn't have to, but I think he's so big because there was talk about their chemistry between him and Hurts. Is he, reading the motivational books on the sidelines? It's like, is he locked in? Is he ready?
Yeah.
And I think he put all those to doubt. He had the book. It was good. So I'll ask you, Timothy, who is your MVP of this game?
For me, it's the Eagles secondary.
All right.
You saw Mahomes. He had less than 150 passing yards, had the garbage time touchdowns, but you saw in that first 3 quarters, couldn't get anything going in the passing game. Could not throw the ball to save his life. And that's credit to the Eagles secondary and their scheming. They had all the receivers covered, and Mahomes was just scrambling around looking for somebody and couldn't find anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Mahomes looked lost, and it sort of reminded me of the Tampa Bay Bucks Super Bowl a few years back with Brady. I don't know, he just can't perform in front of the GOAT, but that's where I want to go next, because last week we were talking about, can Mahomes overtake Brady as the GOAT? I know it's early, but after this performance, do you think, London, that it sort of takes him out of the GOAT conversation, at least for now?
I would say it does not, because though the play style from Tom Brady and the era of the New England Patriots, where they're going to just come out and flat out just dominate, but we see more of the Chiefs, they'll win like 1-point, 3-point games. But a guy like Mahomes, that does not knock him off. This guy has been to the Super Bowl, let's say this AFC Championship in the last 5 years. Like, come on now, that's a big accomplishment. And also winning 3 out of the 5 last Super Bowls, this guy Mahomes is he's a stud. So I don't think this knocks him out of the GOAT race that people, are trying to mention now. But nah, he's still the best quarterback, in my opinion, in the NFL right now. Yeah,
Mahomes has made it to the AFC Championship game in every single year of his career as a starter. That's absolute insanity. Timothy, how are you feeling about Mahomes, and do you think this sort of docks him at all?
Maybe docks him at least a little bit. But you also have to remember, Brady lost Super Bowls too.
Yeah.
And
can't win them
Brady had down years. Exactly, you can't win them all. Also, Mahomes has a decade less playing time than Tom Brady. So you have to still give the guy time if you want to talk about GOAT conversation. He's certainly still on track and still be that guy, still make it up to Brady. But for now, it's the Eagles' year, and the Chiefs just didn't have it.
Yep, and there it is. It's the Eagles' year as much as it's I have mixed feelings about that, but Eagles Super Bowl champions. But before we get out of here, we got to talk about the halftime show a little bit. Kendrick Lamar going out there, it's had some mixed feelings. I'll ask you, London, what did you think about the performance?
I really see whoever's over the marketing team for the Super Bowl did a great job on strategizing it. That was a big publicity stunt.
Oh, yeah.
We know that the whole issue with Kendrick Lamar and Drake, that's going to bring attention. But the Super Bowl guys, they know what they're doing, but I see that from the outside, but okay, like you really see things are not, it's becoming a business now. It's not becoming, okay, let's go out here and play football for real. It's becoming more of just a business now. Yeah,
it's huge, and Kendrick Lamar definitely, I think, was ready for that moment. Timothy, what did you think about his performance?
I thought it was fun. As a guy who, doesn't necessarily listen to that kind of music, it was a really fun performance to watch. Also seeing Serena Williams,
Crip walking
and not like us.
Little more jabs at Drake. Yeah, absolutely.
It was just a fun performance.
Yeah, they are not like us. I think Kendrick Lamar proved that. And another team not like us that I wish we didn't have to talk about, it's coming up next, the Dallas Mavs and the NBA trade deadline.
Craving something fresh, flavorful, and made just for you? Look no further than Avesta, your go-to destination for a delicious, full-service dining experience. Dive into our customizable omelets, expertly crafted by our talented cook Jonathan, who guarantees every bite is perfection. All our dishes are handmade, prepared with only the freshest ingredients. Explore our assembly line where you can choose from any of our globally inspired dishes or customize your plate. It's that easy. And let's not forget dessert. Indulge your sweet tooth with treats from Clark Bakery. With convenient payment methods including card or flex, it's the perfect dining spot for any occasion. Quench your thirst with our wide selection of drinks. Just hand your drinking card to our friendly waiter, and they'll bring your beverage of choice right to your table. When you're done savoring every last bite, our attentive staff will whisk away your tray. Enjoy the peaceful ambiance as you dine in, or use our takeout option for a meal on the go. Avesta.
Hey Alex, this guy on the internet says he wants to give me money.
That sounds suspicious.
What do you mean?
Typically, strangers who promise you money on the internet have their own best interest in mind. They often use bounced checks, which will disappear shortly after depositing, but not before they've asked for some money in return.
So he doesn't really want to spoil me?
No.
Well, then what should I do?
The best way to handle it is to block and report the suspicious message, or even consult local law enforcement if you've already fallen victim.
So I guess we aren't going to Key West for spring break.
No.
There's no harm in wanting to have fun while in college, but it's easy to lose track of how much you've had. Apps like Drink Control and Alkadroid can help keep track of your consumption and blood alcohol levels. If you or someone else does drink too much, the signs of alcohol poisoning are as follows: pale skin, vomiting, confusion, low body temperatures, irregular breathing, blacking out, and is hard to wake up or cannot be woken up.
Dude, are you okay? Hey, what's wrong? Wake up.
It's an exciting time of year, but it's important to be responsible. If you suspect someone is suffering from alcohol poisoning, get help immediately. You will not get in trouble for seeking help if you are underage. For more info and resources, go to UNT's Division of Student Affairs.
Welcome back to SportsZone. I'm joined by Josh Ortega and Omar Najim. And now we got to talk about the NBA trade deadline. This happened about a week ago now, exactly. And I got to say, I'm not quite feeling any better from the Mavs' perspective. We'll go there first. Obviously, the trade of maybe the century. Luka Doncic traded to the Lakers for Anthony Davis. Markieff Morris and Kleber go over there as well. Maxi Kleber and a first-round pick come back to Dallas. So I'll start with you, Omar, Mavs fan. How'd you feel when you first heard this news?
I was really disappointed because when you think of the Mavericks, you think of loyalty. Just like Dirk Nowitzki was there for a while. His whole career, 21 seasons. Mm-hmm. And so it was a little disappointing. I see why they traded Luka Doncic, but at the same time, when you're a Mavs fan, you think of loyalty and just players that stay there forever, right? Mm. Especially Luka, So I personally think it is a little disappointing.
Yeah, for me, it's a lot disappointing. Like, I still don't see it. Especially with Davis going down, it's just so frustrating for me. All things considered, Luka's 25, Davis 31. Yeah. I didn't see it. I didn't think they got enough back in return, and I don't know. I'm just frustrated. But on the other side, Josh, I know you're a Lakers fan. Tell me how you're feeling about this trade.
Yeah, for the Lakers, I really like this trade, of course. Obviously, you get Luka Doncic, who is a perennial top 2 player of the NBA. Mm-hmm. You move Anthony Davis, who is 31 years old, and then you move Luka Doncic, who's 25. So you get a guy who's really in this point of his career where he is essentially about to explode into his prime. And for the Lakers, it kind of felt like they had to pick a lane with Anthony Davis, whether or not they were going to move off him and really hand the keys to the kingdom of him being the star of this team once LeBron James retires. And having Luka Doncic there not only solidifies that plan going forward, but allows them to build around Luka and really help this team go forward with Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura and hopefully Bronny James down the line.
Yeah, certainly. And I think, you said it right there. This guy is 25, in my opinion, not even in his prime yet. I mean, he's getting there, but he's already taken this team to the finals. I mean, he's been in the MVP conversation. He's done just about everything a 25-year-old in the NBA can do. And the Mavs send him over to the Lake Show. And once again, the Lakers have their next superstar of the future. So now we've seen both Luka and Davis make their debuts. I'll go to you, Omar. What did you see from Anthony Davis before he got hurt? And then how are you feeling about Luka in LA?
I'm feeling pretty good. I think actually the trade was good for the Mavericks in the short term. And Davis played well. I mean, he dropped 26 points, 14 rebounds before getting hurt. So I think it's a great trade for the Mavericks. Like, it's just unfortunate that we didn't get more out of it. You know, that's the main reason. And then for the Lakers, I mean, Luka's going to the most marketable team in the NBA. He's going to LeBron James. I mean, if LeBron gets Luka to be conditioned and fit, Luka could be the next great player. Like, you know, he's already great, but what else could Luka do? And that's what's going to be disappointing that the Mavs are going to miss out on if Luka goes off with Lakers.
Yeah, definitely. And Luka already 2 games in. You know, the stats haven't been like insane just coming back from the injury, but I mean, he's just already looked so dialed in. His chemistry with LeBron, his passing as always, it's been excellent. And for me, it's sad. It's sad to see, honestly. But overall, you know, I think Anthony Davis, like you said, short term, I still believe in this team. Unfortunately, they're just really, really banged up right now, Anthony Davis. Hopefully he can come back from that injury sooner than later, but we'll just have to see. So now, moving on from the Mavs, aside from, you know, others down south in Texas, San Antonio also made a trade. De'Aaron Fox coming in there from the Kings. This one has a lot of Spurs fans pretty excited, pairing him with Wemby. Omar, how are you feeling about this trade?
I would be excited if I'm a Spurs fan. You got Victor Wembanyama, 7'4", and then you got De'Aaron Fox, point guard, who already was really good on the Kings. They made it to the playoffs last year, and now the Spurs are young. Spurs have Jeremy Sochan, Vassell, like they are really young, and they have Chris Paul as well to help them out and bring that experience if they can get to the playoffs. If the Spurs get to the play-in, I would be a little bit worried about the Spurs. And then just down the line, they're going to be looking good. They're playing for their future, personally. I'm a little worried. As a Texans Mavs fan, I'm a little bit worried about the Spurs in the future.
Yeah, certainly. It feels like the Spurs did the exact opposite of the Mavs in terms of they got younger. Their future is looking really bright with these young players. I'll ask you, Josh, how are you feeling about this for the Spurs? And then for the Kings, bringing in Zach LaVine.
I think for the Spurs, you really do like it because De'Aaron Fox brings an ability to push the pace. You have another creative guy with Chris Paul. I think really they should kind of give De'Aaron Fox a little bit more of a role in terms of just running this offense is what he's so good at. And overall, just being on this team with Victor Wembanyama, who is an absolute freak of a player and will be in this league for 10 years plus, probably one of the best centers in 10 years. So you love the move. Zach LaVine also, I think, is settling in with the Kings as well and just getting his foot wet with Domantas Sabonis and a bunch of other young players. So overall, it's a very solid move for both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. Wemby, I would say one of the best centers in the NBA right now. Yeah. I mean, the growth he's shown just in year 2 has really been impressive. Now I want to go over to the Golden State, the Mavs. Able to get through them last night, you know, sort of a bright spot for Mavs fans. But Jimmy Butler has come in there in 3 games, averaging over 20 points. He's really played well. I'll ask you, Omar, what are your thoughts on Jimmy Butler? And do you think he can help revitalize Golden State paired with Stephen Curry?
I think he can revitalize them, but I think that the Warriors, I also wish they're a little bit younger.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, he signed a 2-year deal for $121 million.
It's a big contract.
Exactly, and he's only going to be there for 2 years. So I feel like Warriors are good for the win now, but I feel like in their future they're going to struggle a little bit.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler, obviously, kind of a messy divorce with the Heat. I mean, it's like 3 suspensions, all these talks with Pat Riley back and forth. He needed a change of scenery, and so far he's found that, you know, in Golden State. I'll ask you, Josh, now, you know, he's over there playing well. Do you think it's enough, though, for the Warriors to kind of be competitive again?
I mean, they're sitting at 10th in the West right now, and it's kind of a hard spot because they are definitely a play-in team. Jimmy's dropped 30 the last few games, and overall I think that going forward, I think that Jimmy Butler will be a good player. Obviously, long-term, that 2-year deal is the cutout window for that. But I think pairing him with Steph Curry, allowing him to be that secondary scorer and push the rim on a team that already plays kind of small, overall, going forward, it should be a good move. But I definitely think they're a play-in team right now. Yeah,
definitely. And I think that's about right. You know, I think you had to do something. Curry needed some help, but we'll definitely see how it works out, you know, as a whole. So I'll ask you guys now, looking, you know, this was a trade deadline that I would say is probably maybe the biggest, most shocking trade deadline in NBA history. I'll go to you first, Omar. What do you think, or who do you think, team or player-wise, was the biggest winner from this deadline?
For me, it's the Kings. I mean, the Spurs.
Okay, all right.
Spurs are the biggest winners just because they can still make the play-in and cause some chaos, I think, in the playoffs. Also, the Mavericks, I think they're a win in the trade only because they can win now. They could go back-to-back possibly.
You're going to have to convince me a little on that one.
If they stay healthy, I think the Mavericks are in a good spot. The Warriors, like I said, Josh said, if they're they can make the play in, but I don't see them really competing.
Yeah.
I think Steph Curry, like they need more. They just need more offensively. They're too not old. They're just not experienced enough in their bench. They don't have any bench that can score.
Yeah.
I mean, they have Kuminga, but he's starting now. So for me, I would say it's the Spurs at this moment.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Warriors still need a little more depth. The Mavs, the health thing is just a big if for me. We'll see. Josh, who do you think was the biggest winner from this deadline?
I think obviously Luka Doncic going to the Lakers. It has to be the biggest winner, but if I'm going to be not boring and pick, I'm going to go with the Warriors. I know that bench is something that it's kind of a question mark of the youth, but I think having Jimmy Butler with Steph, allowing them to make some noise offensively gives them the biggest win right now.
Yeah, for sure. And, I got to say, the Luka thing, I know we keep talking about it, but I just can't disagree with you. As a Lakers fan, I want to switch it up a little. What is your message to Mavs GM Nico Harrison?
I think I speak for the greater Los Angeles area as a whole right now. Just thank you for one. But overall, I think going forward, for Nico Harrison, there are going to be a lot of tension and things going forward, and we're going to be talking about this for probably the rest of the season, no matter what happens going forward. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's about what he does long-term in this summer and right now, obviously, with the buy-in market, just to get these fans back. I've never seen a team to go back and refund $2,000 worth of season tickets after a move like this. So really what happens going forward, I think, is what to watch for.
Yeah, certainly. And I'll ask you, Omar, now from the other perspective, from the Mavs fans, what is your message to GM Nico Harrison, especially now with all these things going on, fans getting kicked out of the arena, protests continuing? How are you feeling?
You got to win the Mavs fan base back. That's like the biggest thing. When you lose that many fans that are upset, you got to win them back. And so Nico Harrison, you need to make another move, whether that's in free agency or down the line in the season or next season. He's got to make a move to convince these Mavs fans that Luka trade was worth it. Again, Max Christie is actually a really good player. He's amazing. I can't believe he scored 20 points just the night before, and so I think that was really important. Like, could be a really good player. So for me, I just make another move and get more out of the Luka Doncic trade next time, or trading whoever it is, get more out of it.
Yeah, certainly. I'm still a little frustrated, but yes, Max Christie, definitely a bright spot. I think that's definitely something Mavs fans can look forward to. And for the Mavs, hopefully they can get healthy again. That's really going to be the big difference. But man, Luka, from a Mavs fan, I'll always miss you. Best of luck going forward. Now for us, we're going to move on and talk about the Four Nations face-off.
Looking to open a free checking or savings account but don't know where to start? Check out DatQ Credit Union right here on campus. Get your Mean Green debit card instantly or apply for a DatQ Visa credit card today. Your school, your card. Plus, make deposits at their 24/7 ATM, checks or cash whenever you need it. Make sure to sign up for DatQ's online banking platform and mobile app for easy access anytime, anywhere. Visit them at www.datq.org to learn more. DatQ, the official financial institution of UNT Athletics.
Has this ever happened to you?
My bike! My bike is gone!
Stolen bikes are an epidemic sweeping college campuses across America.
What am I supposed to do?
It's quite simple. The We Mean Green Fund has partnered with the UNT Police Department to offer free bike locks to any UNT student with a bike. Just show up with your bike in tow and ask.
Now I'll never lose my bike ever again.
Enough worrying. Get your bike lock today.
Welcome back to SportsZone. I'm your host, Steven Lucero, joined by Matthew McDowell and Jack Shrupsha. And guys, winter is back, full-fledged. It is freezing out there. I can't believe it. I saw ice on the ground. And now we're going to talk about the ice and the Four Nations face-off. This is something very unique. I want to explain it real quick. this is something we haven't seen since 2016, the World Cup of Hockey, where we see NHL players at the highest level competing against each other. So the U.S., Canada, Finland, and Sweden competing in a 4-team face-off, around the NHL and beyond. It's going to be really exciting to watch. Obviously, we got our first little taste of it last night. Matthew, how are you feeling about this?
I mean, I was super excited when I heard about this. I mean, first time since 2016. I was 11.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was super glad to see guys like Nathan McKinnon going against Austin Matthews, going against William Nylander, going against Rope Hint. So I was super excited about it. I was a little hesitant. At first, I thought it was just going to be maybe a little bit of a gimmicky, replace the All-Star game type of thing. But last night was physical, it was fast, and it was everything you want from a hockey game. So I loved it.
Yeah, definitely, once in a long time at least, type of event. First time this has ever happened in this format. Jack, how are you feeling about the format of this, and how do you think this is going to go going forward?
I think it's really exciting. I think it's cool. The NHL wants to see players playing for and representing their country. And it's like, how could it not go well when all the best players in the league are going head-to-head constantly in a round-robin kind of a tournament? So I think it's going to be very entertaining, as we saw from the game yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. Canada scoring that goal there. Matthew, talk us through it. Tell me what you saw from that Canada game where they got a big-time win in overtime.
I mean, I think Canada dominated the first period. I mean, the first goal, that goal you see is a Sweden goal, but the first goal of the game was McKinnon from Crosby and McDavid. That should be a felony in all 50 states.
Absolutely.
Luckily, they were in Quebec, but I mean, it was amazing. Canada had all the momentum early on, the 2-on-1 with Point and Marchand. You just felt like that was going in. That goal from Stone from Crosby, Crosby just does what he does. Kempe scores that one, beats Bennington, blocker side. Was a little bit of a weaker shot that Bennington just let in. I'm interested to see how the Canadians rotate their goalies if they do in this tournament. But this goal right here was just beautiful. I mean, Raymond to Bratt to Eriksson Ek, they just completely undressed the Canadian defense. The play right off the face-off, it was just perfect. It was executed excellently, and, they couldn't do better. Here in overtime, Marner wins it. Nathan McKinnon looked like he had a Julian Newman 6th grade highlight reel going on in overtime. Of course, Sid the Kid, though, drops it back to Marner. He rips it at blocker side, beats Gustafsson, and sends the Canadian crowd home happy.
Yeah, absolutely. We see it right there. Canada gets that big-time 4-3 win in overtime. Jack, tell me what you saw from that game from Canada, and how do you think Sweden needs to respond going forward?
As you mentioned, Canada really did come out hot, really dominating that first period, but I like the way they responded, played a physical game in that second, third period, tightened things up. Really stuck out to me is how Sidney Crosby, despite his age, and just on the biggest stage you could possibly play on, having 3 assists, showing why he's one of the greatest to ever do it. And Canada, with all that firepower on their team, they're going to be an exciting team to watch every game they play, absolutely. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to see how each team adjusts and how Canada will build on their momentum moving forward.
Yeah, certainly, Matthew. Now, Sweden, obviously a close game. Anytime you lose to overtime, it's just frustrating, especially when you see those players on the other side of the rink. How do you think Sweden responds from this game?
I think they respond in the tournament like the way they did in the game. With 4:47 left to go in the first period, it was Canada 2-0, and Sweden hadn't even registered a shot yet. So, you saw Sweden in the last 45 minutes of regulation really take it to Canada and, switch things their way and grab the momentum. Sweden, their center depth isn't amazing in the tournament. You see guys like Lindholm, Zibanejad, Pettersson, you're like, wow, these are really good centers. But they've just been playing like crap this year. Mm-hmm. So, their defense, I believe, is the best defense in the entire tournament. Guys like Dahlin, Hedman, Brodin, Carlson, they're stacked on the defensive side of the puck. So, I think they'll just need to play their game, play their strengths, get the defense active in the offensive zone, let the wingers play like Raymond. He had a great game, 2 assists. He's a young guy showing up. So I just think they need to get to the game. I was a little surprised they went with Gustafsson. They had Olmark. He's kind of been coming back from injury, but he won the Vezina in 2023. So I was a little surprised Gustafsson got the start, but I think they showed up really well in the last 45, but just couldn't finish it off in the overtime.
Yeah, certainly. It's hard to be too hard on them, when you have Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid on the other side. And for me, seeing those two guys teaming up on the same team, it's just, on the same national team, should I say, it's just beautiful to watch. Something I really never thought I'd see, and it's just been incredible seeing the present, and I hate to call Sidney Crosby the past, but he's just been doing it for so long. It's really incredible to see what he's doing. McDavid, good as always, won 85% of his faceoffs last night. I mean, when you have that in the center, it's really tough for the other team.
Underrated part of his game.
Absolutely. And I'll ask you, Jack, which of all these teams, we can talk about the U.S. and Finland if you want to, which players are you most excited to see representing their national teams?
I've always been a huge fan of the do-it-all guys who not only could score but throw their body around. So I'm excited to see Matthew Tkachuk and his brother Brady playing for Team USA. So
yeah, it's going to be exciting to see them, all these sort of rivals and everyone coming together, brotherly. It's going to be exciting. I'll ask you, Matthew, which players are you most excited to see representing their national teams?
I'll go for the Canadians. I mean, Sidney Crosby, I'll throw a little stat at you. He hasn't lost a game in a Canadian jersey since 2010 Vancouver Olympics in the preliminary round. He's won 26 straight games for Canada. I'm really excited to see Bennington. He played great last night. He didn't have a great save percentage, but you just look at the shots he faced and the amount of pucks he saved. He played really good. I'm excited to watch Makar with Theodore out. He's week to week. We'll see if Vegas does some cap circumvention that puts him on the LTIR. But Makar's on pace to be the first defenseman since 2008-2009 season. Mike Green, I believe, from the Washington Capitals to score 30 goals. So he's on pace for that. We'll see if he can really take over the game, especially from the defensive side and moving into the offensive zone. As we can see, he's just such a good skater. So I'm excited for that. One guy I'm excited to watch tonight for Finland is Esa Lindell. I mean, we watch him as Stars fan. I'm a Stars fan. But with hits their defensive core like Rasmus Ristolainen, Miro Heiskanen, they have Lindell slotted on the first pair on the right side. His entire career, he's a left-handed shot. He's played the left side defense. He's, in my opinion, the best defensive defenseman in the league. He's led the league in penalty kill minutes the past 2 years, and the Stars have had top 10 penalty kills those 2 years. So I'm really excited to watch him play, and I mean, at this point, he might have to log a 30-minute night, which is kind of insane in the Four Nations, but we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. Lindell's such an underrated player, and it feels like the Finnish Stars, out there. It's going to be exciting. I wish Heiskanen was healthy. It's so sad that he went down with that injury. But I want to talk about tonight. Obviously, an incredible game last night. It's going to be tough to beat it. But U.S. versus Finland. Jack, give us a little preview. What are you hoping to see tonight?
You highlighted how they have a little bit of injuries. Sweden, right?
Finland.
Or Finland, yeah. They got some injuries on their side of the puck. So I think USA's got it. I mean, I think that second line with Jake Ensel, Austin Matthews, and Jack Hughes is pretty scary. So I wouldn't be, unless they do something, I think USA, they should win this game.
All right, Matthew, how are you feeling about tonight?
I mean, we've seen these Finland teams be kind of under-talented in these tournaments like we saw in the World Juniors recently. They didn't have a great roster. I mean, Konsta Helenius is a great player, but they made it to the gold medal game with the USA, who won back-to-back champs, by the way. World Juniors undefeated.
There you go.
But, I mean, this Finnish team has a lot of chemistry. They have 3 guys from the Hurricanes, 3 guys from the Panthers, 3 guys from the Stars, 2 guys from the Canadians, and they have a handful of guys from the 2016 World Junior team who won gold, who, in my opinion, was the funnest World Junior team to ever watch. I mean, talk about high-flying hockey. Those guys were going 20, 22, 25, almost 30 miles per hour, it felt like. So, I mean, Finland in these tournaments have seemed to kind of lack some talent on the ice, but they always come away showing up and giving teams a run for their money. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do that to a couple teams this tournament.
Yeah, certainly. Jack, from the U.S. side, Ottinger, one of the goalies. What are you hoping to see from the U.S. defensively and in their goalie play?
Well, with Connor Hellebuck being the Vezina Trophy winner this last season in the NHL, I think he's starting tonight. I think you got to ride the hot hand when it comes to goalie. Obviously, you want to see Ottinger in there, but I think in a tournament where you are representing the world and want to win, you got to just be with the best goalie, and I think that's Connor Hellebuck. So, I mean, tonight he's going to play. If he's giving up rebounds, obviously he doesn't play good against the banged-up Finland team. I hope to see Ottinger in next game, but I think for this round-robin tournament, playing against other people or every team, we very well could see a goalie rotation, but I think you got to ride Hellebuck, who's their best goalie.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, and I think this for the U.S., though, I think this is the deepest goalie group we've seen from them in a long time on a national stage, so it's certainly going to be exciting to watch. But now we're going to take you guys to some UNT softball.
Craving something fresh, flavorful, and made just for you? Look no further than Avesta, your go-to destination for a delicious, full-service dining experience. Dive into our customizable omelets, expertly crafted by our talented cook Jonathan, who guarantees every bite is perfection. All our dishes are handmade, prepared with only the freshest ingredients. Explore our assembly line where you can choose from any of our globally inspired dishes or customize your plate. It's that easy. And let's not forget dessert. Indulge your sweet tooth with treats from Clark Bakery. With convenient payment methods including card or flex, it's the perfect dining spot for any occasion. Quench your thirst with our wide selection of drinks. Just hand your drinking card to our friendly waiter, and they'll bring your beverage of choice right to your table. When you're done savoring every last bite, our attentive staff will whisk away your tray. Enjoy the peaceful ambiance as you dine in, or use our takeout option for a meal on the go. Avesta.
Hey Alex, this guy on the internet says he wants to give me money.
That sounds suspicious.
What do you mean?
Typically, strangers who promise you money on the internet have their own best interest in mind. They often use bounce checks, which will disappear shortly after depositing, but not before they've asked for some money in return.
So he doesn't really want to spoil me?
No.
Well, then what should I do?
The best way to handle it is to block and report the suspicious message, or even consult local law enforcement if you've already fallen victim.
So I guess we aren't going to Key West for spring break.
No.
Welcome back to SportsZone. I'm joined by Kenzie Neely and Ian Sparkman, and we're going to talk some UNT softball. The team's gotten off to an excellent 4-1 start. Really been impressive to see. I'll ask you, Kenzie, to go first. What have you seen from the softball team so far?
I mean, not only have they been winning these games, but they've been winning them by a good amount. I mean, you have their game against Samford, it was 7-4. And then you also have your game for Central, and it was 6-3. That's amazing to see.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been incredible, obviously, playing in that Trojan Classic last weekend. Really the best team coming out of that. They just looked dominant, only the one loss. But overall, I mean, when you see this kind of start, the second best in program history, get a little excited. Ian, how are you feeling about this team?
I mean, I love what I'm seeing so far. I mean, the team looks poised to make another run at the American. I mean, I think you can never discount having early success in the season. And I especially love how they bounced back from that loss to Tennessee State. I mean, they lost in pretty disappointing fashion. I mean, they let up an 8 spot in the 7th inning to lose the game after coming in with a 2-run lead. So, I mean, that's pretty rough way to go out, but they bounced back, won 3 straight to close out the tournament after that.
Yeah, that's a big point right there, obviously. Hate to lose those close ones, but the way they bounced back, I think, was really impressive. Kenzie, what did you see from them throughout the tournament and their ability to really finish those last 3 games?
I mean, it really is like he said. It's just that comeback, that bounce back at the very end. It's the same thing we saw, like he said, with TSU, Tennessee State, where it was an upset. They ended up losing that game, but they fought until the very end. But my favorite part, of course, was seeing Samford, because they were down 4-1 until the 6th inning, and then at the 6th inning, they just turned something on, and it was amazing to see. And then they ended up winning by a lot.
Yeah, they really did, and they proved themselves, you know, game after game. Anytime you play a 5-game tournament within a span of a weekend, that's 3 days. I think that's impressive and shows the team, you know, not only their play, but just their discipline to stay focused, especially at the very beginning of the season. This is a team that's very well coached. Ian, what did you see from them from that standpoint?
I mean, again, just the resiliency. I think that just shows how well coached they are, is that they're just so resilient. They're always bouncing back. They're always trying to make that big hit, make that big play. I especially love, they had some clutch pitching. They had that moment against TSU where, I mean, Anik Anderson had 6 walks in that game, so that's obviously not what you're looking for. But particularly Skylar Savage, in that Samford game you were talking about, she came in, got the save, retiring 3 batters on just 7 pitches. A lot of fantastic just clutch performances coming in all 4 of those wins. Yeah, Skylar Savage was absolutely incredible throughout the tournament, put it together a complete game. Anytime you can do that, it's pretty impressive, you know, especially as a starter in this day and age. You know, we've seen them kind of pulling them a lot sooner, but Savage, she's a savage, you know, she's just going to knock you right down. So I was really impressed overall. I'll go to you, Kenzie. Which player throughout the tournament impressed you the most?
I mean, we were just talking about it. It's Skylar Savage. I mean, in one of those games, with 3 batters, it took 7 pitches to get him out. That's the first time she's done that since 2022, and as a senior, I know that really felt good for her. And so I would definitely say Skylar Savage, but not only that, 15 strikeouts in the early season, amazing stats. Like, you can tell that it's her senior year. oh my gosh, it's her senior year. She definitely wants to have like this big energy coming into the game. And so it's really fun to see her play, especially during this tournament.
Yeah, oh my gosh is right. I think that's what the other team was saying when they went down on strikes 15 times. I mean, throughout that tournament, absolutely incredible to do that. Different teams, different games, but same Skylar Savage for me. I'll go to you, Ian. Which player impressed you the most?
For me, I mean, I love Skylar Savage as well. She was fantastic. On the other end of the ball, though, I thought that Kaylin Bearpaw was phenomenal.
Good choice.
She really drives this offense. Tulsa transfer. It's her first year at UNT, but I mean, she's been phenomenal. Hitting 3-hole, just absolutely driving the offense. She's got the power. She's got 2 home runs. No one else had a home run yet so far this season, but she got 2 of them in the tournament. And she also leads the team in batting average so far. So not only she got the pop, but she's also just putting the ball in play. Just phenomenal. I love. I'm really excited to see what she's gonna do for the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Batting .438 so far with 7 hits. I mean, that's just incredible production for me. I want to talk about the second baseman, Sierra Simon. Also really incredible batting .400 throughout those first 5 games. I mean, anytime you're above 250, 300, incredible. 400, I know it's early, but that's pretty impressive. 6 hits for her. Really shows the depth of this team, and that's where I wanted to go next. Kenzie, what do you think about this team overall, you know, and their ability to compete deep into this season?
I mean, it's very early, but just from an early start, they're doing really good. I mean, I haven't seen very much coming from them like in the past. Like, it usually is a slow start in the beginning, and then they start kicking forward. But as of right now, their start of the season is amazing, so I'm really excited to see what the rest of their season is going to look like.
Yeah, certainly. It's obviously so early, but, you know, it's just when you see the teams like this getting off to that kind of start, I mean, I can't help but get a little excited. Ian, how do you think this team can compete, especially as we go into the conference games and then, you know, maybe even for a conference tournament later this season?
I mean, from what we've seen so far, they've been very consistent offensively. Again, I mean, we were just talking about how they were scoring consistently in every single game in the tournament. It just came down to kind of that defensive collapse, or more so the pitching collapse, I guess you would say. Again, the 6 walks from Anakin Anderson were just not what you're looking for. But as long as the pitching can be consistent, you know, as long as Skylar Savage, you know, that Savage performance, if that can just spread across the entire staff, I mean, they'll be in a really good spot. It's just about getting the consistency with the pitching equivalent to what they're doing on offense, I would say.
Yeah, for sure, and that's exactly where I wanted to go next. Obviously, Savage was incredible, and I think we can expect to see that throughout the season, but obviously you can't do it all by yourself, and, you know, the bullpen, I think, is going to be something that really makes a big difference, especially late in the season. You know, you can't win a championship without a bullpen. We saw that throughout, you know, baseball, softball, whatever you're watching. I'll ask you, Kenzie, how do you think the bullpen can really adjust, sort of bounce back, especially over the course of a long season?
I mean, I think it's just team morale, and they have a good amount of that so far. I mean, one of the things I wanted to talk about, which I know we're going to talk about soon, but just the coaches, the coaching staff in general, their head coach, Coach DeLong, like, he loves his team, he loves his players, and the assistant coaches are amazing as well. So just having that team morale, not only like on the field, but in the bullpen as well, is going to be able to not only get them up defensively, but offensively where they really need it.
Yeah, and you beat me to it right there. Coach Rodney DeLong, absolutely incredible. Picked up his 200th win over the weekend, highest in UNT softball history. I mean, no one else has even really came close to that number. Tell me, I'll go to you, Ian, what does Coach DeLong mean for this team, and how has he helped really transform this program?
I mean, Coach DeLong is so important to this program. We have yet to have a season even close to at 500 or below 500 under Coach DeLong. He's been phenomenal. Probably his worst season as a Division I softball coach was probably last year, and they still went 32-24. Went all the way to the semifinals of the American championship, or tournament championship at the end of the year. So, I mean, I think that he's been extremely important. He's a very successful coach. All he does is win. So I think he's incredibly important to the success of this program.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. You know, when you win like that, and when that's your worst season, you know, I think that says a lot. And now for this season, I think you got to imagine there's a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, though, because, like, you know, when you're coming off your worst season, for us, it's like, oh, that's not that bad. For him, I know he's feeling it a little. I know he wants to bounce back, and he wants to bounce back for this team. Kenzie, we've seen the fast start. How do you expect this team to go down the stretch and DeLong kind of regroup them for a season of hopefully success, especially for a lot of these seniors?
I mean, I'm really excited. Like I was saying before, this is a senior season. So not only do we have Skylar Savage, but there's going to be a lot of other players who are going to be seniors this year. So I think they're all going to want to play to their best, just like Skylar's been doing during the tournament. And I know she's going to keep doing throughout the season, just like I said before. But not only Coach DeLong, but the rest of the players, you can tell that they're wanting to play and they want to do really good this year. So I really think this is going to be the season for UNT softball.
Well, I sure hope so. It's going to be exciting to continue watching. Obviously, we have those seniors. We have some, developing players as well. I'll go to you, Ian. Is there anyone that you'd like to watch, as the season progresses to kind of maybe take a step forward so far?
Yeah, for me, I think that player in my mind is Blaze McNamar. She's a redshirt freshman, so she did not play last year. She was out with injury, but she's fantastic out of Galena, Kansas, very talented player. And I mean, she doesn't have that big hit yet like we've seen from some of the other players, but she hasn't struck out in 12 at-bats. She's putting the ball in play. Good things are going to happen if she keeps putting the ball in play.
Yeah, certainly. Softball, it's a team of 9 players, at least, if you're talking about hitting. It takes everyone. So I'll ask you, Kenzie, just real quick, anyone you'd like to see kind of take that step forward this season?
I mean, one of the people I was going to talk about was Blaze. Even though she is a freshman, I think that she does have potential. Like he said, she's been doing well so far. So I think that there is that potential for her to take it further and show us more than what we've seen this season.
Yeah, this is a team that I think has bet on themselves. They've really taken that initiative, and I'm really excited to see how they can go throughout this season. Obviously, it just started, but it's going to be exciting to watch. So, speaking of betting, we're going to talk about sports gambling in Texas coming up next.
Looking to open a free checking or savings account but don't know where to start? Check out DATQ Credit Union right here on campus. Get your Mean Green debit card instantly or apply for a DATQ Visa credit card today. Your school, your card. Plus, make deposits at their 24/7 ATM, checks or cash whenever you need it. Make sure to sign up for DATQ's online banking platform and mobile app for easy access anytime, anywhere. Visit them at www.datq.org to learn more. DATQ, the official financial institution of UNT Athletics.
To shoot the puck. Here's
Has this ever happened to you?
My bike! My bike is gone!
Stolen bikes are an epidemic sweeping college campuses across America.
What am I supposed to do?
It's quite simple. The We Mean Green Fund has partnered with the UNT Police Department to offer free bike locks to any UNT student with a bike. Just show up with your bike in tow and ask.
Now I'll never lose my bike ever again.
Enough worrying. Get your bike lock today.
Welcome back to SportsZone. I'm your host, Steven Lucero, joined by Nick Volpetti and John Phillips. And we're going to talk some sports gambling in Texas. Sports betting has become really a very growing industry as of the last few years. This is something that's had its ups and downs, but now with ESPN Bet, DraftKings, all these official sports books of just about everything, we've really seen this come into the spotlight. And for Texas, it's sort of a hot topic because sports gambling not legal in Texas, but seeing it pushed so much by really the leagues themselves. I remember last year in baseball, there was a home run, hit the ESPN Bet sign. It was like the ultimate advertising experience there. But I'll start with you, John. How are you feeling about gambling in sports, and do you think it's a good or a bad thing?
I mean, like everything, I think in moderation it can be good. Who doesn't love throwing a couple bucks on the game with a friend? That's a great thing. But the amount of pushing it's gotten, like ESPN Bet, every single game you look at on ESPN, it has gambling mentions. It has gambling mentions in every article. That amount of pushing just leads to so much gambling addiction in America that I can't see that being a good thing for anyone.
Yeah, I think that's the concern, obviously. Looking at so many leagues, channels, networks, everyone's pushing this. I'll ask you, Nick, how are you feeling, and do you think this is a bad or a good thing for the leagues?
I mean, I'm kind of with you. I mean, we're seeing like live odds during the game. I mean, do we really need to know what the live odds are in the middle of a game? You mentioned addiction. I mean, in Florida, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, just as an example, they've seen more than double in the calls to their addiction hotlines ever since those states have legalized gambling. So I think that just kind of shows that it's becoming a big problem. I mean, like you said, in moderation, it's fun, put $5 on, something that has some high odds. I mean, you never know what might happen, but unfortunately, we're starting to see a lot of people getting addicted to it, and I think overall it's mostly had a negative impact because people just have a hard time limiting themselves, especially when it's pushed so much.
I think that's a really good way to put it because this is a thing where it's different in every state. It's just not really consistent, and there's some people where, it's like, oh, just one more. It can get out of hand like any addiction, so it's definitely interesting. As for Texas, sports gambling, there's ways around it through some of these, sort of prop bets, everything going on, but not legal, as it really has never been. I'll ask you, John, do you expect the legality of gambling to change in Texas?
In the short term, no, I don't. I think that I've seen Dan Patrick, the lieutenant governor, talk about it, and he says that he doesn't really have support in the Senate to make it legal in Texas. And I think that it's going to be a process to legalize it. But I think with Trump as the president, I think his fan base is someone that supports gambling being legal. And I think that's the way the culture is headed, sports gambling. And I think that at some point, we'll definitely see it legal in Texas.
Yeah, Governor Abbott spoke on it not too long ago. He's been very against it for a lot of years, and now sort of being like, well, I'll consider it.
Yeah.
Kind of that maybe seems to be coming into play. Nick, how do you think Texas is going to go about this going forward?
Yeah, I saw that too from Governor Abbott. Like in the past, it's been like no gambling, but he's been more relaxed on it. I mean, that could potentially be a sign of things to come, at least like you said, in more of the later future. I don't think it's going to be like this year. But according to a poll from the University of Houston, about 60% of Texans do support it. So if they can get it through that Senate, that's going to be the issue, is whether it can get on the ballot in the first place.
Definitely.
I think that's something that we'll have to wait and see. But I mean, even if I do think that it's kind of been shoved in our face, I'm not necessarily sure if I think it should be illegal. I just think that the advertising of it and the pushing of it needs to be limited a little bit.
Yeah, I think
probably a lot actually.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I just feel like every commercial, every break, it's like for sign up now for some free bets.
Code.
You got it right now. It's
DraftKings,
I know.
All these
$5 off. Yeah.
And I think that's just when it comes to be a little much, and it can be a little bit distracting. So we'll talk a little bit more on that going forward, but I want to mention the Adelson family. Obviously, the new owners of the Dallas Mavericks. They're in the media right now for a lot of very bad reasons after the Luka trade. There's Patrick Dumont, the governor, obviously Nico Harrison, everyone getting thrown into this. But the Adelsons, a family, I mean, when you have a family come in richer than Jerry, that says something. Net worth of over $30 billion, made their fortune in the casino industry in Las Vegas. And now there's been a lot of talk that they want to kind of bring a resort, a casino-style, new arena, basically everything to Dallas. I'll ask you, John, do you think this could happen, a casino in DFW?
I mean, when we talk about if it can happen, if you have someone who has, like you said, $30 billion in net worth, anything can happen. And they want it bad. They, like you said, came up in the Vegas casino industry, and it's a huge moneymaker. And I think that is definitely a huge part of why they bought the Mavericks, because they want to make it more than just a team. They want to make it a resort with the casino and everything.
Yeah, certainly, I'd agree. It's something that was brought up really the second they bought the team. I think this wasn't something that they tried to hide. They want the new arena. They want basically a resort in Dallas. Nick, going forward, do you think this happens?
I mean, I think it's possible, like you said. I mean, with a family who's that rich, I mean, anything is possible. They got the money for it. That's not going to be an issue. But I mean, as of now, casinos are also not legal.
Yes,
that would also
exactly.
be something that would have to change. I mean, you could get a new arena. Obviously, that wouldn't be anything with a legality issue. But if you're going to have a casino, that's something that's also going to have to pass through the legislature. They tried in 2023, and that did not happen. So that's something that no matter how much money you have, I mean, maybe they could do like some lobbying and all that. I don't know how well that works, but it's going to be tough to get that legalized also, just like it will be to get sports betting legalized.
Yeah, I will say the Adelsons being one of the biggest donors to Trump definitely will help them, because being a friend of Trump helps you get things done, and I think that their lobbying towards him will definitely help a casino get built in Texas and have it be legalized in Texas.
Yeah, certainly. As soon as they came in, just all these connections, it felt like something was brewing, and you got to address this because it's been thrown around, sort of the conspiracy theory around the Dallas Mavericks. Obviously, Luka traded in this shocking move to the Los Angeles Lakers, and it just feels like, we talked about it earlier, but everyone's still just sort of scratching their head a little. It just doesn't quite make sense. And there's some people throwing out the idea about a potential Mavs move to Vegas. This is something the Adelsons, Patrick Dumont, has denied, to be clear, but the rumors, they're still swirling. I'll ask you, John, what are your thoughts on this whole thing?
I think people that say that the Mavericks want to move to Vegas with the Adelsons don't really understand the business. The Mavericks trading Luka Doncic, their biggest asset, the moneymaker, and then moving to Vegas and wasting that industry that the NBA is clearly very interested in just doesn't make sense to me. There have been rumors that LeBron's going to own the Vegas team. There have been some big names, and I think that when that Vegas team comes in, it's going to be an expansion team, and the Mavericks, the corpse of the Mavericks moving to Vegas is not interesting to the league. It's not interesting to the Adelsons. It's not interesting to anyone, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree with you. I think they will get a team eventually. But the Mavs, I mean, being in one of the largest sports markets in the world in DFW, I can't imagine this city without a team. I just think it's a bit far-fetched. Nick, what are you thinking on this whole theory?
I completely agree. I think even if the Adelsons did want to go to Vegas, I don't think the league would let it happen. I don't think the league would allow there not to be an NBA team in one of the biggest sports markets in the country. The great fans here in Dallas sell out the arena every night, make a lot of money here. I just don't think that the league would allow there not to be a team in Dallas, like you said.
Yep, certainly. So to sort of wrap this up, I want to kind of circle back to the play itself, because I think another concern with gambling, everything going on, is the possibility of games being bought or sold, and it's just, we've heard it all season long with the Chiefs that the refs are on their side, and I think the gambling, the bets, it's just added to that. It's like, the refs have a parlay on the Chiefs, But I'll ask you, John, do you think that this at all jeopardizes the integrity of these sports?
I think yes, but not in the way that fans think.
Okay.
I think fans immediately go to some major conspiracy. They go to the league is rigging it, the refs are rigging it, but that's not going to happen. That is way too big of a cover-up necessary, But we've seen Jonte Porter this season. We've seen individual cases of players or refs betting on games or throwing games for money. So I think we'll see an uptick in those individual cases, but in terms of a grand conspiracy theory, that's just not happening.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, everyone's always talking about the script. I mean, look at this. Mavs fans moving to Vegas, we'll have to see it, but I mean, that's just about how I'm feeling. Just it's depressing after Luka going away.
I think I see myself in there in that casino.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, so that in Texas, man, I don't know. We'll have to see. But kind of to wrap it up, Nick, we talked about it. I'm not sure about this whole grand conspiracy of a script, but I guess it can't be denied that some of these games, close outcomes, you could see somewhat of a conflict of interest. I'll ask you, do you think that this at all jeopardizes the integrity of the game?
I'm not sure if it necessarily jeopardizes the integrity of the game or the result of the game. I don't think that sports are rigged, but like you said, you might have some players or the umpire Pat Holbrook getting caught in MLB. It's more so an individual thing, I think, rather than a big rigging conspiracy. I mean, even if you see calls go the wrong way, I think that's just kind of refs not being as good at their jobs as they need to be, rather than an actual conspiracy.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you, obviously. This is something we're going to have to continue to monitor, but we'll just have to see. Obviously, this is something that's here to stay, so we'll definitely see how it develops going forward. And I hope you guys stick around to see how our show continues to develop going forward. Our very first show is wrapped up now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Obviously, happy to be back. We'll be back every Thursday throughout the semester. But for now, make sure to follow us on our socials at NTTV Sports and stay tuned for NTTV Nightly News.